and gave way to all this technological advancement. And this had unintended consequences that we really didn't think about. We built these great industries, but then crushed the people underneath them. And here's an example in Detroit, where I was developing robots. And we just kind of laid waste to keep innovating. We really created this tension between humans and this new technological advancement, and actually created these small conflicts between people and the robots themselves. So how did we solve that? Well, we have leaned on government regulations that haven't really worked well. We're passing around this idea of like universal basic income, which is the idea that we could tax these robots that are taking jobs or innovating. We can tax the innovation to slow the process. But that really creates this circular dependency that is not really being looked at, where if we decide to tax those producers on the only way that they're trying to turn a profit, then they're just going to find another way to innovate, and the circle goes round and round. Then this comes to the corporations themselves. We allowed these corporations, and we entrusted them to really guide us, right? A lot of us are employees, some of us are entrepreneurs, but really we depended on these institutions that we thought were kind of our guide. And we've all seen the repercussions of that in the past decade. So how do we really solve this problem? And I set out to solve this problem about 7 years ago when I was working in Detroit. And I was already seeing these tensions forming, and it definitely needed a solution because we were heading into this new paradigm where robotics and artificial intelligence are the future. It's not going to end. It's how do we work with them to produce a new future. And that's where I formed Aitheon. So Atheon is the digital ecosystem simplifying your world through AI, robotic, and human symbiosis. So the idea here is really to create an environment where humans can work with artificial intelligence and robotics together. Atheon is just as much of a social cause as it is for a way of business and exchange. We believe that people create businesses to share their passions with the world. We also believe that people should live a life enjoying their work and feeling satisfaction from measurable accomplishments. But to run today's business model, however, individuals are so laden with back-end processes, regulations. They're really removed from that original passion that they set out to create. And that was actually one of the things that also motivated me with Aitheon is I was spending more time running business than actually building robots, because that's what I love to do. So really, it's our underlying mission to remediate this problem. Aitheon does this by leveraging AI and robotics to complete these mundane tasks and bringing these services to users in a way that is both easily understood and easily for them to use without a technical background. And we call this the Aitheon circular hierarchy. So the Aitheon circular hierarchy, consists of distributed clusters of nodes defined as users, organizations, agents, services, and robotics that use our token as a method to exchange services or mint new tokens through work. For sake of time, I won't be delving into the intricacies of the underlying neural networks, deep machine learning algorithms, but will be presenting a more palatable, broader definition of understanding. And this is the beginning of what a network would look like. This is the beginning of the relationships being formed inside of Aitheon. So over time, as Aitheon expands, nodes come on and offline, and they pass through certain transitional states. They go from state A, where they're completely detached, all the way to state D, where they're actually doing swarm intelligence and a completely distributed model. And depending on node state, it may actually fall back into B or C state, like C state and octree, and eventually try to reform back into state D. There are 5 main categories of these nodes within the Atheon platform: mechbots, pilot programs, specialists, digibots, and the creators program. Digibots. These are the digital variant of your physical robot. So these are performing tasks such as doing controller functions, such as monitoring your income outcome stream, making purchasing decisions, things such as that. They could even be doing OCR or document sorting, even purchasing. So we have mechbots. Mechbots are the mechanical variant of your robots. So these are the typical robots you see in a manufacturing plant. They work amongst you, typically they're collaborative, and these robots perform tasks with digibots. They handle physical tasks such as fulfilling the retrieval attire, as seen here. This is a project being managed by a digibot working with a mechbot for fulfillment. Another example of this is a flexible assembly line, where a purchase has been made within Aitheon and queued by digibots to work with mechanical bots to actually physically change the assembly line to cater to that product being made, instead of having fixed automation where you can only make the same thing every time. This is a project, another mechbot project we're undertaking to actually physically park cars within airports and busy cityscape areas, so we can densify cars in their existing garages to accommodate more vehicles. Now the next portion of Aitheon is one of my favorite, and that's the pilot program. The pilot program is something I've dreamed about since watching Gundam Wing as a kid. And this is actually something you will all be able to experience later today after about 11 p.m. or 11 a.m. because we actually brought a robot with us that is running on this software. So the Aitheon pilot program allows robots of driverless type or autonomous ground systems to interact with humans. And how this works is we have that what's called the last mile problem in autonomous robotics. It's the situation when a robot gets into a place where it doesn't necessarily know how to react or how to finish its problem. And that's why we see such difficulty with these mobile platforms. How we solve that is by using the pilot program to actually take over the robot. The robot requests for a pilot, and the pilot patches in, helps solve the last part of the problem, and then the robot can complete its tasks. Combined with that, we have the specialist program. And the specialist program does the same thing, but it's on the digibot side. So we have a series of remote workers that can patch into the system. They're completely anonymous, and their work is pooled. It's pooled together, so the businesses actually don't understand or know of what those specialists are doing, but their work is being completed. And through this consensus, we're using multi-blind consensus algorithms to determine the quality of work and the weight of those specialists. And that takes us to work consensus. So where blockchain fits into all of this is the work consensus. When the consensus becomes a clear majority, the block has been mined by those specialists and the tokens are minted. Upon this token minting, the tokens are distributed back to the nodes that perform the work, those users. The creators program, this is one of my other favorites. I have to hurry here, but the creators program, we developed a variety of embedded microprocessors that work with Atheon systems on a module. These vary in power and strength. We actually went beyond that and developed an entire IDE for this. So creators on the platform can develop their own products, mechbots and digibots, that interact with the system. Community. Our Atheon community is completely driven by voting blocks. So when you add or want to see a new feature, there is an entire community around that to build those different products, and it's all consensus based on voting. And this is Aitheon. If you believe in a digital world where there's human and robotic symbiosis, then join us. Our robotic
Roger, ladies and gentlemen. All right.